afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast, and I have a huge surprise for you. As some of you might already be noticing, this is not Samar, this is not Langres, this is definitely not Normandy, nor not even France. This is the Eastern Front, das Ostfront, and we are here from the company reviews to Beta reporting, and again, Beta is the key word. Beta means not finished, Beta means there's still stuff changing, Beta means I'm going to hit you with a stick if I see someone acting like this is the final product in the comments. And we are going to be having a 2 versus 2 of all things, yes indeed, ladies and gentlemen. 4 players actually, already messing up nonetheless. 4 players, Gamorrr and Symbiosis fighting for the Germans, taking on the fight for the 17th Panzer Division. Opposing them shall be someone who's apparently upset Comrade Stalin has been censored, and Sepha fighting for Comrade Stalin, fighting in the name of the 5th Guards Mechanized Corps. And yes indeed, the Soviets had a bit of a tendency in organizing things in corps, in fact, which was rather what equal to the Western divisional level. It was after the brutal fights of the initial parts of Barbarossa, where everything was basically changed in terms of tanks. A battalion, for example, I think had only about 10, and that rather sort of made its way filtered up the entire chain, which rather meant that the whole how this army unit and such were described by the Russians tended to sound bigger than they actually were. From the Germans, so we are seeing a bit of a curious start already here. We're seeing a mortar team already starting out, and yes indeed, that's one of the initial changes. In fact, there's so many changes in Company 2, you wouldn't bloody believe it. But mortars are available quickly there. Mortars are also a bit different. Apparently they're somewhat more deadly, yet not fully. Smoke, though, is also more important in Company 2, and that is what the mortars provide, amongst other things. Because again, we also have something called True Sight, and in that sense, smoke completely obscures everything. And already here, of course, we're seeing heavy fighting in the center as Sepha and the Unknown One pushes forward. We are also seeing some grenadiers coming out for Gamorrr, so we're seeing a return to some of the older Company tactics. That is, one player provides the infantry, the other doesn't. And of course, in this case, we're already seeing some serious problems appearing right there for Symbiosis, as we do see conscripts simply pushing through. And noted here, they actually vaulted over the cover. And again, one of the more fantastic features. I mean, again, it seems so small, but it basically means your infantry gains a lot more mobility in the game, basically leaping over cover, jumping from place to place. We're seeing some grenadiers taking up a defensive position in one of these Russian houses, others going for the strategic point. And already note here, I mean, the Russians has already made huge gains on the left side, and basically already knocking at the door of the 17th Panzer Division's Kampfgruppe bases with the infantry companies, spitting out as many troops as they can. And we are seeing the mortars and heavy machine guns of Symbiosis being forced forward. Now the Wither Grenadier leading the way, as they properly should. Infantry should always be leading the way, support units should be following the infantry. Good rule of thumb there for you more inexperienced in the game. And also note, all the oorahing going on from the conscripts basically means they become slightly better for a small amount of time they spent. But overall, I mean, it doesn't mean they suddenly become invincible, and it certainly does not mean like in the first game where you had troops that could ignore suppression. They don't, and right there we do see an MG42 firing away, and as you can hear it, of course, more proper sounds. There is a proper MG42 ripping away and shattering into Soviets, and there we go. We saw a mortar absolutely devastating one of Sepha's squads, murdering it, and we also see some poor pioneer left to die for himself. Fighting and continues up here. Troops are getting suppressed. MGs pushing forwards now from Gamorrr, with more grenadiers leading the way. Pioneers holding up this small old church. They're likely serving some other purpose at this stage after the communist takeover. Conscripts pushing up, grenadiers holding up. Germans are now sort of stabilizing the front line. They do hold several of the victory points right there, and they are making some progress on the right-hand side. The initial assault from the Soviets has slightly petered out, and also flamethrowers right here. Of course, note the house on fire, absolutely amazing, and actually oorahing to get away out of the flamethrowers. I mean, there's so many more tactics that appear in this game. It's absolutely amazing. Also, smaller fighting going on in the MG42, trekking through the deep snow. Definitely moving a lot slower, and you can in fact also hide in the deep snow, although when a blizzard hits you definitely don't want to be caught there. And also note here from the Unknown One, we actually see a Special Rifle Command providing him with the M3A1 Light Scout car. For those sort of wondering what that could be equated to in Company Heroes terms, it's basically like the infantry half-track from the Panzer Elite, and largely the Soviet attacking structure mirrors that with only 2 tiers, but I mean, basically open top, very light, lots of machine guns of 50 caliber on the front, 30 caliber on the rear. quite a bit of firepower, and of course, if you stop some infantry in it, it becomes a lot more nasty. Germans, though, securing up the right side of the map, plus the centre. MG42 taking up position in the church. 50 caliber, there we go, firing away, catching the MG crew out in the open. That could actually prove devastating for Symbiosis' MG crew, and there we go, the engineers in it, actually blasting away as well, forcing away the MG crew. Conscripts catching a few Grenadiers, and there we go, we actually see an MG42 upgrade on the Grenadiers. Grenadiers have a sort of advantage in they can get more upgrades right away, they have more equipment right away. Conscripts, on the other hand, they need research from their regimental headquarters, and also for those, of course, new to this, and yes, I'm sort of trying to balance everything, probably failing miserably, but I will also be shifting a bit every 5 minutes so we can get an idea of what every player is doing, because I rather feel that gives a bit of an idea. But there we go, flamethrower in the scout car, bit of a nasty trick, forcing the Grenadiers out of the building, since they rather don't fancy getting burned up. While the MG42 now and the Grenadiers, unlike the first game, actually do a lot more. Conscripts here caught by the MG, but at the same time that's going to leave the house right here open to a direct assault from Sepha's conscripts if they so desire. And we are in fact also seeing conscripts moving in there, going again, vaulting over the fence, moving forwards, going to pull up to the cover right there. And we also see a scout coming up there, possibly with a flamethrower to burn out the fascist invaders of the house of God, or Stalin, whatever. MG here again running into a bit of problems, some very aggressive tactics going on there for the Soviets. And of course I might be thinking, well dang, that looks awfully brutish and rough, and certainly not fair. And then of course I have to point out that Grenadiers start out with Panzerfausts, which pretty much can almost knock out a scout car immediately, or at least render it a lot less useful. And we also see that already the Germans have been taking up for their leichte Mechanized Company. Okay, Panzer Company, I suppose, would be more technical German jargon. But we are seeing the scout car, the Sonderkraftfahrzeug 221, if my German permits it, which can be upgraded into the 222 with an autocannon, which tends to be, in fact, also a pretty good method for dealing with the lighter scout car. We also note now we also have another thing here, Blizzard incoming. So much going on and so much to keep track of. It's absolutely amazing. And there we go, scout car is pushing forward. The scout car here definitely running into a bit of problems. The left seems to be lightly secure. The MG42 seems to be playing a bit around with the scout cars. We seem to be joining up in the center. And there we go, already this scout car has taken quite a bit of damage. Could go down. And we are seeing 2 mortars up from apparently Symbiosis, really wanting some artillery to support the infantry and any other efforts. There we go, Grenadier squad moving up. MG setting up to fire, but no, decides not to. Second mortar pushed away, already there, the fence has gone. Oh, my pardon, hiccups. And there we go, scout car rolling forwards, unleashing torrents of flame, catching almost some poor bastard on fire. Germans have been once more pushed back. Scout car needs to be upgraded to deal with those scout cars, I think. Maxim machine gun, that of course notes a support weapon Campania up from Sepha, is providing him with the Maxim machine gun, an old World War I weapon, although this was a slightly more modernized version. And we also see the 82mm mortar up from him as well. Also note, Soviets have slightly larger weapon crews, which rather again designates they can stand a bit more on their own. They don't need as much babysitting as the Germans, though of course you shouldn't be completely reckless with them. And of course they can take a bit more of a beating that way. So of course that is actually a vital thing to remember. And we are seeing the Germans once more advancing, and the blizzard is on. And of course some might be wondering, well, what does a blizzard do? Besides of course freezing your troops. It also actually decreases your line of sight, and I will just slightly demonstrate here. As you might be noticing, they can't see very far. Of course, again, true sight fog wall, that plays into each other. And in this case, I mean, the troops can't really see far. Infantry can see farther than most other units, but still, I mean, some units are definitely not going to see far, and armor in particular really suffers under it. Flamethrower engineers here. The car finally burst into flames. To note here, a huge smouldering wreck which actually blocks up line of sight even more for the Germans. At the same time, scout car here, now equipped with an autocannon, but immediately gets hit by an anti-tank grenade. Really taking a lot of damage. It does fire away, though, at the conscripts with its 20mm Kampfwagenkanone. Grenadiers advancing up here through the center, MG in hand. Of course, they need to stand still for it to work. And certainly that's a bit of a mistake I'll probably be seeing a lot of newer players make, like they did in Company of Heroes 1. That is light machine trying to move about with a light machine gun, expecting it to fire on the move. It does not work like that. And meanwhile, this scout car is definitely not looking to go, though, scoring a few kills, and actually gets abandoned a new wondrous mechanic of Company BS2 where vehicles can lose their crew but still be usable. And in this case, he quickly recruits it with some conscripts, but he doesn't quite have the ability to repair it, and he has suffered some catastrophic engine damage and can't move. Tragic. But meanwhile, the Germans push forward. We do see the Panzer Abwehrkanone 40, slightly bigger than what we had to make do with in the first game, considerably bigger, and also more the proper anti-tank gun from the Germans. And there we go. Scout car takes a direct hit. Oh, it's abandoned even. The Germans. No, the pack ruins it. Almost. Will the Germans actually secure it? Because that could definitely give them some more mobility and also some protection here in the blizzards. And switching over to the German side now again. Apologies if this actually confuses some, but again, I rather think it gives a better impression of resources and also, of course, the new doctrines. You can slightly more customize them. Currently in the beta, there are 5 for each army. In this case, we have, for example, for the Germans, Festung Armor, Festung Support, and Jäger Armor Doctrines chosen, which offer a bit of this and that. Scout car here getting repaired. This one has still not been fixed up by the Germans. I do feel that's a bit of a mistake from our friends in the 17th Panzer Division. But the Russians are definitely keeping up the pressure. That is good. I mean, in that sense, they rather follow up on the Americans and the Panzer League, for those, of course, that know of the first game, that is aggressive play in your face, attacking from every conceivable angle. And note here, actually, the scout car is being fixed up, but we do also see some Panzer Grenadier pushing up from Gamorrr, equipped with a Sturmgewehr, going nuts on the Soviets. And they might even try and get off a bundle grenade, a Geballte Ladnung, as it was known by the Germans. Scout car is of less use since the turret is pretty much also messed up. Flamethrower did alright against the Panzer Grenadiers, but ultimately not enough. Pioneers moving about there, Grenadiers holding up the centre there, and we are seeing a full assault going up here. 2 Guards rifle squads up from the unknown one, and equipped with the name escapes me, by the light machine gun the Soviets had. And there we go, grenade getting locked at Symbiosis as Panzer Grenadiers killing 1 MG42 there established on the road, providing covering fire excellently. And looks like the major German effort so far is on the right flank. Another scout car pulling up. 30 has been reached for the Germans, and looks like he might be pushing on for the next one. Bit hard to say. And another pack rolling out there for the Germans. Scout car still not secured. Again, I can't help but feel that's a bit of a miss by the Germans. And also note, the SIS-3 Soviet field cannon actually could function both as an anti-tank gun and a field artillery piece. It was rather the Soviet doctrine on that matter. Quite effective in both cases, although not quite as effective as the Pak-40, which was more of a specialized thing. But fun fact, later in the war, the Germans would actually copy this idea with a field cannon and actually convert Pak-40s to actually also function as light artillery. Panzer Grenadiers a little bit on their own, but we are seeing a nice solid infantry force moving in from the unknown one, equipped with PPSH-40s. They get 2 for each upgrade. Part of the doctrines, again, a part of a slightly novel thing here in Company BS2, where actually a doctrine not only gives you different units and such, but now can actually also give you specific upgrades for your troops. In this case, submachine guns for the conscripts. And he's actually heading away here, cutting off the Panzer Grenadiers, and then having another squad, of course, moving straight for the base. He could even be trying to head up here from several angles. Of course, like suspecting, there's an MG4 here, attack from several angles, a good flank assault, and we're seeing a T-70 light tank also out from the unknown one. The T-70, a reconnaissance tank. Later in the war, saw less usage, in fact was cancelled in production since the Russians rather realised they could just as well use the T-34-76 for the same purposes. So, fun fact there. Germans though so far holding up the centre. Flanks that are exposed, they are forced to pull a bit further, which actually also exposes the 2 victory points there. Maxim machine gun setting up there on the right flank. T-70 taking some nasty hits though from the pack and some other bits. Grenadiers taking up a position there, holding up with an MG, but immediately comes under fire from the T-17, and flamethrowers taking heavy losses. Pioneers pulling up with their own flamethrowers, and I think he was trying to panzerfaust that T-70 before he was forced away. Symbiosis troops running to front. A second pack moving up, but needs to stop. Halt, Menher. And there we go. Pak-40 destroys the main gun on the T-70, doesn't quite get the kill. Second shot, though, knocks it out clean. Grenadiers moving up to hit the flank of the Pioneers. In the meanwhile, conscripts providing covering fire from the victory point with rifles and submachine guns, forcing, in fact, the Grenadiers to pull back as their own pack gets overwhelmed by another conscript squad. Really nasty fighting, nasty flanking going on. and the Germans are definitely having a bit of trouble keeping track of all this infantry and all of their weapons. So read some heavy fire, and we're seeing another blizzard incoming. Conscripts heading up the centre, left and right into problem again. Note the mortars. In fact, we're seeing heavy mortar usage by the Germans, though it's not quite working out the way they're intending to. And there we go, the scout car was finally wrecked. Again, I definitely think that was a bit of a missed opportunity by the Germans to motorize their troops a bit. And could have given them a better chance to actually react to the Soviets. So a bit of a miss there by the 17th Panzer Division. Struppen. A bit of infantry, although looks like another Grenadier squad actually went down for Symbiosis. This very moment, he's down to a Grenadier squad and a squad of Panzer Grenadiers. But let's go look at Gamorrr, who's got 2 squads of Panzer Grenadiers, 2 squads of Grenadiers, 2 Pioneers, a mortar and a pack. There's some heavy fighting. The Soviets are progressing once more, and we see the Su-85 out from Sepha, so which means he's likely gone for the Mechanized Armor Campanella. A tank destroyer, reasonably well equipped with a higher velocity 85mm cannon. Quite useful against most German armor. Though, mind you, it should be kept at range, otherwise you will probably find yourself in a bit of trouble. Also report some troops suffering from the cold. Again, in the blizzard, you usually want to keep them near a fire so they don't freeze to death. Just a heads up. And of course, you can also get them into half-tracks, buildings and such. Again, there's also a reason why the scout car up there could have been a good move. And more light artillery fire going on here from the field gun, forcing the Germans away from the victory point. Mortar fire, and of course the Su-85. There was also an upgraded version, the Su-100, which had a bigger gun, but was also slightly overloaded because of the gun, and a slight tendency of tipping a bit too much forward. And we also see that Sepha is already getting the infamous Katyusha. Lots of rockets ready there to hammer the fascists with the righteousness of the motherland. And a bit of mortar fire there on the Su-85. Germans pulling in to cover. Cover provides protection against the cold, but actually does not keep your troops up. And there we go, full Katyusha barrage straight into the center of the northern village. No real counter artillery from the Germans. They've got mortars, but mortars are not really going to have the range. Guards infantry making an assault. The man censored pushes forward in the name. And oh dear, friendly fire from a mortar almost wipes out a squad right there. That was definitely a bit unfortunate, but it can happen in war, which is also why you should be a bit careful with mortars. Very much so. Germans making lighter advances on the flanks. Making some good progress. And the mortar here getting a bit too close to the guards, who themselves are about to freeze to death. Heavy fighting. Bit of a problem for the Germans actually establishing a front line. Their infantry suffering a bit, to put it mildly. And we do see that Jaeger armor has been chosen by Gamorrr, giving access to Riegel mines, which can be deployed by his half-track, except he has none. And interesting enough, the Germans seem to be largely staying away from the mechanized fighting, largely fighting as foot-based Panzer Grenadiers, for that matter, with MGs and assault rifles, which actually was an organization of the later 1944. After heavy losses and the introduction of the assault rifles, they tried to sort of economize manpower, basically having units largely equipped with assault rifles, and then a few squads in the same platoon would be equipped with MGs to provide a more base of fire. And we are seeing sniper squads, some of them male, some of them female, as Soviet women actually did fight at the front line in a limited extent, usually as snipers or tank gunners, or tank crews for that matter. Some fighter pilots, or in the larger extent, they usually fought in the rear line services. Well, fought, but you get the point. Su-85, they continue up here. T-34-76 rolling up. In fact, we're seeing 2 T-34s. Definitely a force to be reckoned with, though also a force that can easily burst into flames, as the T-34 was very much a lightly flammable tank. But there we go, Pioneer Squad pack overwhelmed. The T-34 so far definitely providing a threat to the Germans, who've only got packs, and they've definitely actually only got one at the front line. The Germans are in fact desperately low on anti-tank guns. You'd almost think they were the Romanians at Stalingrad, since they seem to be so utterly unprepared. But what is this? The 17th Panzer Division has called upon its Panthers to roll forward and stop the Soviet Stankovi. Question is, will it work? Mortar round bounces off there. T-34 unleashing death upon the retreating Germans as the front line is being absolutely ripped apart by a good flank assault from the T-34s. Oh, right there, the Panther rolls up with a 75mm high velocity cannon. And more vehicles are about from the Soviets. 2 Katyushas now out for Sepha. T-34's in a bit of trouble now. They are experiencing a bit more firepower than they had initially counted upon. And returning over to the censored one, who actually rammed the Panther with his T-34. A bit of a bold move right there from him. And the T-34s can ram tanks, although again you should not always be doing it. In this case, it actually allowed the other T-34 to escape the wrath of the Panther, which now actually needs to get the devil out of there. And meanwhile, a nice concentrated push again up. The problem for Symbiosis in establishing a front line is basically allowing the Soviet troops to constantly penetrate it. Again and again and again. The Guards Mechanized Corps makes a push. Panther with severe damage to the engine, to the exhaust. The gunners in yet. The main guns destroyed. This is definitely not looking good. And looks like the other T-34 actually went down here. Less good. And the 2 conscripts here desperately holding up, but they're taking heavy fire from the MGs. Right there, 2 Grenadier squads unleashing hail of bullets. Flamethrower engineers running up against flamethrower pioneers who are veterans, 2 meaning they're actually a bit tougher to deal with. For the larger part, conscript squads, guard squads on the retreat with their PTRS 41 anti-tank rifles and their something like machine guns. Snipers so far not achieving much. They can't walk around it invisibly as they could in the first game, which is a godsend, by the way. Instead, I mean, they can hide and cover. Otherwise, also note the Soviet scout sniper squads also can fire off flares to actually cause a bit of reconnaissance there. Germans still continue to fight up here and actually see an anti-tank rifle drop behind. Pioneers fighting. It's a Panzer Pioneer of the 17th Panzer Division. Snipers moving forward to scout the way for the assault gun, which is a good move. Second one up there as well for Sepha, providing more heavy anti-tank gun fire. Panther completely pulled back. He did not really manage to do much. And again, I mean, with Companies 2, I mean, a Panther like this can much quicker actually get disabled if you're not careful. You can't just rush in. A heavy tank, of course, you couldn't quite do that unless you're playing really novices in the first game. But here, I mean, it really becomes a bad tactic if you're not careful. In this case, the Panther really took a beating. So you have to be careful with your armor. And Company Heroes 2 in particular when a blizzard is on, because then they really can't see much. Also note, 6 points already for the censored one, which means he's got full access to his doctrine. We can actually see what he's got access to, including a 152mm gun, but also Sturmovik attacks, which can be quite devastating. Though, mind you, they do not work such abilities during a blizzard. Flamethrower Pioneers making a good push against the Maxim, which largely gets out there unscathed, although I imagine slightly warmer. Panther continues to repair. Soviets continue to dominate the map quite nicely. Katyushas firing away. The Stalin organs playing a tune from the motherland and Comrade Stalin. Packs being forced away due to the heavy rocket barrel. Just note the Germans barely have any territory left. Again, they've been brutally pushed back by aggressive Soviet tactics. I mean, really nicely done again, and the T-34s really tore it up before they went up in flames as well. So the Germans are actually having a very hard time, you know, holding everything together. So really nicely played, very aggressive Soviet play, what we like to see, gentlemen. And the Combat Engineers Corps Veterans 2, which actually gains, I believe, a damage bonus. Veterans, oh, went down to the Panther. Damn those fascist tanks. SU-85 moving up. Other one as well. Slow but surely. Usually want them at a distance, because otherwise, I mean, basically the rule of thumb is if the Germans can fire at your tank or tank destroyers, you're doing something wrong. Guards making a good push up here, firing away. We've on already Veteran 2, which makes their weapons considerably more accurate, including the light machine guns. Mortier running into problems. More Katyusha barrages. Map so far in the hands of the Russians. Things are a bit more desperate for the Germans, despite the arrival of the Panzerkampfwagen 5, which is actually less effective against infantry than, say, a Panzer IV. And of course also means, again, heavy armor rushes are not necessarily always the cure for all problems in terms of Bolsheviks. Oh, nice grenade there. Really takes out a few Panzer Grenadiers, forcing away the entire squad. Mortar not looking too good either, looking very cold. MG Grenadiers running into trouble here as well on the right flank. And note again, the Nameless One is actually building up an armoured reserve of several T-34s, which is a good move. Sometimes, in particular, as the Russians, of course, you don't want to be rushing in tanks blindly. You usually want a few to really get that numbers advantage against the Germans. In particular, the T-34 is quite cheap. One of the cheapest tanks in the game, in fact, so, you know, don't expect a Panther, which is, on the other hand, more expensive and much more expensive to reach. Conscripts moving up. They might try to get off an anti-tank grenade. No, they went for a Molotov for some reason. Apparently someone had a bit too much vodka and wanted to get away with the evidence. But T-34 advancing straight into the Panther. Oh, he's going for a ramming attack and does it again. And no support, which again is a bit of a problem for the Panther on its own. Panzer Grenadiers, though, doing what they can to end the Soviet tank. Su-85 is moving up to take advantage of the wounded Panther. It could try and further pull away from there. That might work. Apparently not. The gun has been injured, and apparently the engine's not doing too well either. Again, mortar rounds falling down. The Panther could very well go down, and rockets going in. Definitely not looking good right here, and I do believe... Oh, Pioneer's getting murdered. And a strafing run from a Sturmovik. Just absolute carnage. Oh my god. Just wrecking the entire area. Even my computer's having a bit of trouble following with all of that carnage, that devastation. And we're seeing a bombing run going in as well from the Sturmovik. Oh, good lord. Just murder, carnage. This entire area has largely been leveled. I definitely need a better graphics card for when the game is out. That much for sure. So, let's actually briefly pause to move on to something for those not aware of my channel I call the mid-game analysis. I basically take a brief stop and sort of look at how things are doing halfway through the match. What could be done, theoretically, of course, from my perspective, as the outsider only viewing this match. And of course, perhaps in that way, provide some tactical and strategic insight for those who might be looking for it. The current situation is obviously not looking good for the soldiers of the Third Reich. They have taken some beatings. They lost Panthers again. The whole armoured rush is so far not quite working out for them, going for the Tier 4 building, the heavy Panzer Corps structure. In fact, ignoring the third tier, which could perhaps provide them with something to plug the gaps a bit more resoundingly solidly. But currently the Soviets are definitely enjoying a nice sort of control of the front line, although Sepha, Comrade Sepha, has been suffering some heavy infantry losses. In that sense, he's a bit more weaker. He's currently pulling up more of a support duty, and if the German player was to focus on that, they could actually possibly do quite a bit of damage and actually allow the other player to stand a lot more on his own, and that way they could actually ultimately pull out a victory. But they need to be quick on their feet. They need to get out some armor, they need to get out some infantry, although getting this light howitzer up for the Germans is definitely also helping the Leichte Feldhaubitz, which is part of the Festung support doctrine so far. And yes, the Germans actually have a howitzer now available for those Common Heroes players who knew they did not have it in the first game. So a bit of a nice projection here, although the Germans still have some veteran troops which will benefit them, since veterancy 2 troops actually gain a sort of armor increase. They become slightly tougher, largely due to medals. Veterans 1 basically for all units actually unlocks a special ability. In this case, for German troops, they gain the Mark Target ability, which actually gives them a chance to basically get even more accurate against a certain troop. For the Soviets, so they need to keep up the pressure. We're also noting here from the silhouette that Sepha is actually getting the ISU 152 heavy assault gun. That's definitely something that's going to be felt on the Germans. Question is, of course, is what his friend's going for, perhaps, though he's not going to be able to get any sort of special heavy armor due to his doctrinal choice. He could get a howitzer, though. But they need to keep up the pressure, they need to hold the victory points, they also need to stabilize the front line. They could consider mining things, or laying up some more defensive lines. If the Germans continue pressing with heavy armor, and they do so from the right angle, there could be problems. I think what could work for the Germans, actually, is if they pulled off a flanking assault through here, and then struck into the side of the Russians. They should not be trying a frontal assault against the assault guns. Here would be a good path, since the road is a bit more open, there's less housing and things the Russians can actually be hiding from, unlike here, where we're noticing there's a lot of fences, trees and everything else, where the Soviets could be much easier hiding with the nasty things. So Either of those paths could work out for the Germans if they were to pull off a larger armoured assault, and that would definitely be a preferred path rather than directly down the middle, straight into the, well, basically lion's den. So, let's return to the fighting. 5th Mechanized, the Guards Mechanized Corps holding out so far, although the infantry is suffering a bit. And a Stuka going in. I hope it's here. Yes, indeed. The Stuka. Blowing apart an entire conscript squad. Lovely stuff. And that definitely hurt Sepha as well, as that was one of his veteran squads. And the thing is, with Soviet veterans, you'd usually actually come to get damage bonus first, and then you get a slight protection against bullets and the likes. Panzer Grenadiers advancing. T-34 might want to stay away from them. The Panzer rate can definitely prove to be a problem. And that howitzer is definitely proven to be advantageous. Oh! A nice raid again. The rather bad German front line, which was common, of course, in the war actually itself, has left to the unknown one actually sneaking in. A T-34 taking advantage of the weakness of the German front line to go after the light howitzer. An absolutely nasty move, and he's actually calling it a bombing strike just in case. He's taking no chances. Communist Stalins will be done. At the same time, though, a Tiger arrives from Gamorrr, and there we go. The howitzer is gone. A huge set of explosions render it to dust, including the crew. And Gamorrr also pushing in more Panzer Grenadiers with Panzerschreck, another squad retreating. 30 caliber, oh, not 30 caliber, for some reason I'm thinking of 30 caliber, we're talking Maxim machine gun. Pack quickly recruited by a few plucky conscripts before they get the devil out of there. And we do see the ISU 152, a very heavy assault gun, quite nice range, can really devastate German infantry, and certainly also prove to be a problem for German armor. But again, keep it at a distance, you don't want it to get too close. And there we go, we actually see the DHK 38 12.7mm heavy machine gun. And that's the ISU 152 firing. Really nasty stuff. Really nasty stuff. Tiger firing away itself. The Tiger. Likely sent in from a Schwerer Panzerabteilung to provide support for the 17th Panzer Division. Grenadiers here the Corps, and again the ISU just fires away, unleashing death and destruction upon the fascist invaders. Tiger, though, on the other hand, certainly a nice sort of middle thing between all those things. And T-34, again, ramming. The lack of support is actually hampering again the Germans. They lack something a bit extra to fight support for their armor. They lack grenadiers for Panzerfaust. They lack Panzerschreck. So again, in that sense, again, the problem is for the Germans, they simply can't muster enough infantry for their panzers. Rather realistically, I suppose. And again, the result is also quite realistic. Again, without proper infantry support for their panzers, they run into a bit of problems. And another bombing run. The Tiger's desperately trying to get, while another is... Oh, no, not a bombing run, but a strafing run. Threatening to actually blast the Pioneers and Grenadiers into bits. Really nasty move there. Really nasty. And we shall return to Symbiosis. I'm not sure what that thing is actually flashing up in front of us is. My apologies if it's actually a bit distracting. Again, this is beta, and I imagine that is one of those things that will be sorted out. More artillery firing away, straight into the German line, so that actually means the Symbiosis has secured himself another howitzer. Calling upon the Panzer Artillerie Regiment to provide some nice artillery, although so far it seems to be doing little damage. And again, Festung support includes a mortar half-track, Stuka smoke bombs, relief infantry, which actually allows you to sort of, if you, for example, lose 6 men during a fight while it's active, you get a full Osttruppen squad, which are definitely not Grenadiers, but they can hold out alright. Provide some backbone support, in particular if they get some veterans, they can become alright. And they don't need so much experience to become decent soldiers of the Third Reich. Panzer Grenadiers, there ain't a problem again. T-34s unleashing the Grenadiers simply are not enough. Plus, of course, we also have the ISU 152. No, it's actually being pulled back for repairs. Sepha being actually quite careful with keeping it in one condition. German infantry being pushed back. Tiger rolling forwards once more. Pioneers following up in the wake. Another blizzard. And actually making it very difficult for the Germans again, allowing, in fact, the T-34s to creep up, or for that matter, any infantry to creep up. There's a lot of problems there. We do see a Pack 40 up, providing support. One T-34 could actually go down. There we go, out of control, crashing into the remainders of a small shed, and they've got another ramming attempt, and it pulls it off. It gets abandonment unless it forces the Tiger to back once more for repairs. Absolutely nasty stuff. And again, the lack of support for the Tiger is really hampering the Germans' advance, as the 17th Panzer Division is once more trying to push forwards against the 5th Guards Mechanized. The victory points are ticking down. There's a blizzard. The troops are repairing. And we do see the Elephant heavy tank destroyer. Schwer Panzerjägerabteilung 653. Oh, yeah, I can't remember exactly, but one of those. Actually having some Elephants being sent to the front here, apparently equipped with a high velocity 88mm gun that is higher velocity than that of the Tiger. Quite far range, quite solid front armor. Not very good against infantry though. In fact, quite rubbish. But definitely a threat to most Soviet armor, but also expensive, also bleeding slow, and of course if flanked, also bleeding much rubbish. So that of course is vital to remember if you're actually using it. It needs support. Very much so. But there we go, rolling forwards. Actually made by Ferdinand Porsche. It was originally made by the Ferdinand, not of course handmade by Ferdinand, but still. Was less than good. Was pulled back for some refitting after Kursk. Added a machine gun, a bit of a cupola for cupola. I'm not entirely sure how that's pronounced. Provide some better viewing, but overall, not a lot were made. And depending on who you ask, they were either rubbish or alright. Su-85, they're coming under fire. Another Stuka run, I hear. Heading directly on. Oh, the pack, ensuring this filthy Bolsheviks can't use German equipment against the Germans. Elephant firing away. T-34 pulling away in the face of such might. Tiger tank apparently hit by an anti-tank grenade. Suffers engines damage, and there we go. The T-34 actually becomes immobilized after a direct hit from the Tiger. Main gun destroyed. And there we go. It kills the crew entirely. More rockets devastating the center. Barely holding on to the center. In fact, doesn't quite succeed that. Another attempt by the conscripts to sneak up here. Howards are firing away. 14 kills. We see sector artillery available for the Festung support commandant Symbiosis to call in and cover any sector. And another strafing run from a Sturmovik, firing its cannons mildly, not mildly, but madly away. So much fighting going on. Elephant rolls forward like a lumbering giant. Now he is rolling forward as well. There's so little infantry left for the Germans already. Most of it is pioneers. Of course, one thing that Symbiosis could do, of course, to sort of countermand it is a bit relief infantry again. Sort of mitigates it. You won't get again panzer guns or something like that, but you'll get something that at least functions a bit like infantry. Su-85 here getting attacked directly. And we do see the T-34 actually providing a huge plume of smoke, actually making it harder for anything to see through it. Again, the might of fog of war. Looks like the ISU-152 firing away. 10 kills already. Guards pushing forwards. Under fire though from Tiger and Veterans is 3. Tiger so far holding out nicely, getting Veterans 1, which actually gives it the blitzkrieg ability. Moving a bit faster and looks like it's actually been targeted. Good lord. Really a tense fight. This MG42 placed up here to hold the right hand side. Some unfortunate pioneers left with the task. Guards infantry continue to push forwards with the anti-tank rifles. Not really going to do much to the Tiger tank though. And they are getting blasted with everything else possible. And looks like the Su-85 is actually flanking the Elephant, which could actually work out nicely. Howitzer continues to fire away. Left flank is so far ignored largely by the Germans, partly due to that Maxim machine going to require a larger German assault to actually clear out. I don't think the Germans have the resource. Oh! Dear. Were those pioneers? I don't know. If there were, they aren't anymore. ISU-152, they're coming under fire from the elements. By the looks of it, something has actually managed to spot it, which is a bit easier without a heavy blizzard going on. Ooh, Elephant actually fails to hit through the armor. The ISU-152 actually based on the IS-2 tank chassis, which meant it actually had rather heavy armor. While the Germans desperately fighting forwards, the 17th Panzer Division cannot fail in this mission. It's a fast land, depend upon it. And just artillery firing in here, probably trying to see if he can't catch the Katyushas. But oh! Catches the Su-85 and the engineers working on it. Definitely good shot there. And what do we see? Another Tiger rolling forwards. The Schwerer Panzer Teilung apparently being depended heavily upon to provide with the armor for the front lines. And more Katyusha rockets firing into the center. Precision strike abilities for the Soviet artillery, which allows them to fire one rocket or shell, whatever, very accurately. Su-85 sneaking in behind enemy lines, and we do see sector artillery going up right here to protect. And there we go, almost devastating the conscripts. And I think he's going to sneak in that heavily damaged Su-85 to try and get some vengeance on the fascist howitzer for his comrades that were killed in the defense of the motherland. And MU-42, helped by the communists, quickly devastates a Panzer Grenadier Squad. Actually, time to have a look at Gamorrr. My apologies. Got so caught up in everything. Sincerest apologies. Grenadiers still holding up. Veterans free. They're very tough infantry. Veterans actually gives their weapons an accuracy bonus, including that MG they're equipped with. Tiger fires away. The second Tiger that is. The first one's still a bit damaged. Getting buttoned up there. Elephant firing away as well as it can. Heavy rocket fire bombarding it, and there we go. Second howitzer is down, and looks like this Su-85 is going to go down. If they're lucky, they actually gets abandoned, but likely will be destroyed. And then, I mean, that's one of the sort of reasons you have to be a bit more careful with your armor. You can risk the crew just dies, and then you can't actually have any chance of dealing with it. But in this case, it did pay off. The Su-5 was not abandoned. The Germans cannot recover it and use it for their own nefarious purposes. Symbiosis pulling forward a Sturmpanzer. Fear. Impressive. Sort of the same gun as the ISU-152, but not quite as far ranged. It's much more of a close weapon. Tiger pulling forward, heavy damage. Both Tigers damaged, quite a few kills. The Sturmpanzer following up, the Elephant following up. Looks like the Germans have secured the center, although we do see heavy fighting for the right flank. Grenadiers holding out. Maxims, engineers are mortally even moving up forward here. Sepha making a concerted effort to break through. The Grenadiers are doing their best, apparently also with an anti-tank rifle. So it looks like fighting is finally dying down a bit, but 52 victory points left for the Germans. Not looking good. Not looking good. Tiger taking a direct hit there. Not good, and it's actually turning its rear to the ISU-152, which is not good. More rockets firing away. And the ISU-152 was also known as the Beast Killer, by the way. And there we go, the Tiger tank actually ends up immobilized with its rear exposed. The last situation that any Tiger tank ever wants to end up in. Well, its sacrifice shall be remembered, I hope. Right side victory point being lost to the Soviets once more, and there we go. Tiger tank goes down. And some Panzer gunners reporting their shoot. Oh, made a kill, and then... Oh, you think that was actually their own sector artillery which accidentally got them? Oh, friendly fire is never nice. Definitely looking grim for the 17th, although again, the Soviets themselves have also been quite depleted. I mean, our unnamed friend has actually lost, he's down to very little infantry, and looks like sector artillery is now actually devastating his own troops, forcing them away. And some Panzer gunners sneaking up here, and again, no, they can actually hide in the deep snow. Again, they also freeze pretty quickly in the deep snow. But for now, looks like the Germans, through severe sacrifice, heavy losses, have managed to conduct a breakthrough and once more semi-stabilize the front line. The question is for how long, and if it will be permanent. They're going to just once more making a solid push up the right flank, forcing away the conscripts. And we're seeing two sniper squads moving up here. They can't really see the Panzer guys because, again, they're hiding. And now they know where they are, since Fritz there decided he couldn't handle the cold anymore. And dies. Tragically. He shall be remembered. Snipers firing away, not quite always hitting. Size 3, more guards moving forward, nasty stuff. Support weapon company actually going up now from him as well. Probably to try and hold the terrain and possibly get some more stuff. Tigers in need of repair. Sturmpanzer as well. Blizzard obscuring everything through. And again, in this position, it's actually pretty poorly done by the Germans. I mean, in theory, if the Russian infantry was to advance, they could actually overwhelm the tanks, because the tanks in this kind of weather can't see far. And all they might be able to see is about this far as well. So it's a bit of a, perhaps not the wisest move being conducted right here by the sharp, brilliant minds of the 17th Panzer Division. And a third howitzer. Definitely not from a lack of trying. Trying probably to harass the Soviet build-up, catch a few communists out in the open. No fires here, so all the troops are a bit cold, hiding in craters, trying to cover themselves from the wind. Sturmpanzer IVs were meant to basically blast open infantry in any sort of fortified positions. They were rather came about after Stalingrad, when they rather realized they needed something for fortified positions in urban warfare. Not a lot of them were made, and I believe about 2 battalions overall came about, operating a bit on the same basis as the Tiger tanks and the Elephants, and other more heavy units, specialist equipment, independent battalions that could be attached wherever were needed. ISU-152 once more. Oh, blimey. He's actually got 2 of them. That's bad news for the Germans. Mildly put. Very mildly put. Elephant pulls back. Tiger holds up. The communists here. Fires away. 13 kills of that, although takes a nasty hit right there from one of the ISU-152s. And if he gets much more veterancy, he will do a lot more damage as its gunners begin to aim a bit better. And knows what spots to hit. And the Sturmpanzer here actually taking several hits as well. Already there, suffering a gunner kill on top. And already down to half health. The Sturmpanzer IV itself had about 100mm of thick armor. And I believe that was actually slightly sloped compared to the Tiger tank, so... Gunner there on the run. Sepha still holds that side of the map. The center, though, has been pretty much rendered into dust, mud, and other nasty things. Elephant actually also veterans won. Quite impressive. Taking several hits from the ISU-152s, who target down the fascist beast of steel. And there we go, the Elephant already down to half health. Heavy shots there, and let's go look at Sepha. And what is this? Another Tiger? Apparently Gamorrr only has access to Tigers. And just note the amount of smoke that's been kicked out. I mean, the graphics are great. Of course, I know not everybody will be playing it for the graphics, but I mean, it certainly is just a nice coating and an already amazing cake that his company views too. Elephant there fires off a nice, great shot there. Fighting, though, here in the later game is definitely getting much more brutal, much more hands-on, less clever tactical maneuvers. But the Germans are definitely actually draining down the victory points of the Russians. Sturmpanzer has been pulled back for repairs. Of course, we still have that third howitzer. And there we go. Med 22 for the ISU-152, increasing its damage considerably, making it even more nasty. And there we go. Tiger taking a hit. And there we go, looks like the Germans are making one concerted push. Oh dear, the Tiger here got immobilized. Threats blown off. Although it looks like they are trying to focus down that one ISU-52 with both the Elephant, which is also not looking too well. We are seeing some conscripts pulling up. They could try and immobilize it with an anti-tank grenade. And looks like that is largely what is happening, already down to half health. Pioneers quick on the job there to repair. The elephant's not been repaired. A few Panzer Grenadiers. Very desperate fighting going on here. As well, pretty much every side is bombarding the other one to try and gain control of that central victory point. All of the Russians also very cleverly moving up on the flanks, which the Germans again can't quite cover. Again, they've taken several heavy losses themselves as well. And again, they've also invested so much resources on their heavy armor they can't actually extend infantry that much to hold up the flanks, which is a bit again the problem for focusing too much on heavy armor. ISU 152 continues to advance, continues to fire away at the fascist panzers. Time to look at Symbiosis again. And there we go. Sturm Panzer 4 shouts 9 as it gets hit by a direct hit. And out of control. Less than 10 points left for the Germans, pushing forwards with every pioneer, every soldaten they can muster, and they failed. A loss for the 17th Panzer Division, a loss for the fatherland, a victory for the 5th Guards Mechanized and Comrade Stalin. So, quite the tense game, quite the violent one, quite a bit of a bang I thought we could start with. Of course, I can get later on with other matches into more technical details, but overall, I mean, this rather showed, you know, the overall fight against Germans versus Russians, and also that largely, in some senses, balance is already much better again. You can't just rush for heavy tanks and expect glorious German victory, or for that matter, glorious Soviet victory. You have to sort of think through a bit more. Clever tactical maneuvering is the order of the day, and that was a problem for the Germans. They went for a sort of support rush, start again, lacking the infantry, allowing the Russians to much more quickly overwhelm them, and they kept up that advantage for larger parts of the game. And again, when there was a gap in the front lines, the Russians sensed it and just exploited it ruthlessly and without remorse, really causing some problems for the Germans. Again, they have spent a lot of resources on their heavy armor, which again meant they did not have much else to hold the front line. And again, that was one of the major problems. They could not hold the flanks, they could not hold the victory points, and they could not flank the Russians, which probably would have worked better against all those assault guns. And probably would have done it with a lot less effort and a lot less casualties. But the Russians stuck it out. They had themselves some good tactical maneuvering on the flanks. And again, that early aggression with the T-34s definitely played a huge role, sneaking about the German positions, hitting their weak spots, and doing a ton of damage. So, there you go, the first Company of Heroes 2 cast from me. Again, beta, I repeat, beta means not finished. And I hope you enjoyed this cast. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you bleeding well enjoyed it. If you did, why not subscribe, tell your friends. If you didn't, well, why not provide some feedback in the comments or send in a replay of yourself if you're already in the beta. Of course, feel free to send me to propagandacast@gmail.com. I shall, of course, be able to take them. I can't guarantee I will cast them, though, as I'll probably get flooded. Bro, here again, brutal fight. We saw some really fun things. We also saw that it's a lot more graphically challenging at the highest level, which I, being the clever fiend I am, actually playing on. But we also saw, you know, blizzards. We saw artillery, smoke. We saw the new doctrines. We saw Tiger tanks. We saw heavy Soviet armor, and we certainly also saw it can, you know, if well used, actually do a lot of damage to the Germans. And again, Tiger's not necessarily I-win tools anymore. So there you go. Cheers.